Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Decryption and I hope you are well. This year I took part in the Brackeys 2024.1 Game Jam, where the theme was What's Behind the Door. If you don't know what a Game Jam is, it's a little challenge that is released challenging people to make a game in a set time frame with a few rules. This time, the challenge was 1 week to create a game that uses the theme What's Behind the Door. The theme was released and I took to thinking of ideas straight away. The game I came up with was a first-person action-adventure game where you control a rogue mercenary. You are stuck in an endless loop of warriors from different times fighting to the death in a gladiatorial arena taken over by space pirates. This is the post-implementation review, where we look at what went right, what went wrong, what would I change, did I improve since last time, what did I learn, viewer feedback, ratings, and my next plans. So let's get started. The game went really well. It's been my most successful game so far. Only one major issue came along and everything else just went really well. I upgraded my skills in so many areas, from AI, movement, world building and game features. The story came along great and I love the idea of it still. I had amazing friends who voice acted the game to make it even better, and the landscape, the randomness, all of it was just fantastic. I tried so many new things that I'm proud of, from adding multiple game modes, swearing modes, loading screens, randomness and new AI state trees. The end result was a fantastic arena shooter with so many features compared to every other one of my old games, and I generally am really happy with the result of the game. So previously I mentioned that something went wrong. Throughout the entire game I was trying loads of new things and everything did go really well, and it just worked in most instances. But the one major issue I had was with the state trees. For those who don't know, in Unreal you've got multiple different ways of doing AI. The most common method you'll see on all the tutorials is to just use behavior trees. The problem with behavior trees is that the more complex you get, the harder they are to manage. You end up having to balance different AI behaviors, such as trying to walk around, to attacking, taunting, and in the end you just end up with a behavior tree full of Boolean checks. Are they allowed to walk? Are they allowed to attack? Should they be taunting? And you're just checking what the behavior should be, almost like a state management. And this is where state trees come in. It's a new feature of Unreal, officially released in 5.3, and it's a fantastic new way of designing AI. Its core concept is to build up different states of your AI using Boolean logic and other stuff like that. So for example, you may say, is their current state walking? Have they detected the enemy? Should they be attacking? Are they ready to attack? Stuff like that. It's all easy to do in state trees. However, the issue I had is because state trees are still early, they're still new, they're officially released, but they've still got some quirks that need to be ironed out. The issue I ran into basically stopped my editor from building, and it stopped the game, and the game kept crashing every time you got to a certain point. The only error I had was a random error saying one of my many state trees had a Boolean value that wasn't correct. Because with state trees, you do comparisons to say whether they can enter a state or not, such as the current state is equal to walking, and they call it the left and right value. So the left value would be the current state and the right value would be walking. The problem is I couldn't figure out which state tree it was. In my game I was only using one state tree. I checked over it countless times and there was not a problem with it. It was all fine, but it kept crashing. I even got to the point where I deleted the state tree and remade it from scratch and it still crashed. I ended up spending nearly 68 hours of my dev time trying to resolve it. In the end, it was a state tree I wasn't even using. It just so happened to keep crashing my editor for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I just deleted it and then it all worked fine. Now, I'm not trying to put people off of state trees. Absolutely jump into straight trees. I didn't have any issues with the state tree, except the errors were a bit vague. That's it. The only other thing that went wrong is I ran out of time for the ideas I wanted. Not that I planned too much. With the 6 to 8 hours I should have had, it should have been enough time to add in the extra features I wanted. However, I ran out of time, so I couldn't do that. So I am really proud of this game. It's a really good game, and if anybody asks what's one of your best games, I will absolutely include Time Gladiators in the top of the list. So there isn't much I want to change in the game, but that's not going to make for a very interesting video if I just go, I was perfect. It's not great. So the two key things that I would change would firstly be booking time away from work. So I participated in this jam while working a 9-to-5 job. So it means I have a very limited time in the morning, maybe a lunchtime, and then the evening, and then that was it. I didn't have a lot of time. I did have the weekends around other family business, but that's pretty much it. The weekends and evenings were my big moments. Next time one of these jams are coming up, I'm going to try and make sure to try and get some days off, or if not the entire week off. I get to pick and choose when my holidays are, I just need to allocate them and let my company know. So if I can take the entire week off, the game could have been fantastic and had so many more features. The next change, and the key thing I want to start focusing on more with my games, is gameplay over story. At this point, the vast majority of my games have all had stories and quests. And it's good, it works, people love it, they say they like the story, but it doesn't often leave me room for gameplay because I normally spend all the time making the story, making it so you can play the story, and then by the end I'm like, oh, I need some gameplay in there. Combat, shooting, functional stuff in the game, stuff like that, that's what I want to add. I want to start focusing on adding cool gameplay elements and letting the story come second, but in a perfect world I'd have enough time to do both, but with a jam you don't have that benefit. The final thing I would change is something I've realised this time, is you need to start voting on games throughout the voting period, or mainly focus in the first week. So normally, once you finish a game jam, you have a grace period where you can go and play on other people's games, vote them, people can rack up the votes they want. However, I took a week's break after I did this jam. I was staying up really late to try and add more time and waking up really early to give myself more time to do it. So I only started voting on games on the second week because you had 2 weeks to do it. However, I noticed that half the games I was commenting on, they were not responding at all, and it just looks like they'd done their weekly vote, and for the second week they were just resting. So they did it reverse to what I did. I rested the first week and tried to vote on the second week. So this ended up being, just to get 20 votes, I ended up having to vote nearly 100 games just to get 20 different votes. Whereas normally when I vote, 80 games on the first week, I'm going to get nearly 80 votes. So absolutely, and my advice to you and what I'm going to do next time is start voting on games from day one. You don't have to do a lot, just do as many as you feel comfortable to, but try to spread it over the 2 weeks and, add more in the first week, because it boosts your chances of actually getting a vote. The reason votes are important on a game jam is most game jams don't give you votes unless you have a minimum amount of votes. So if you don't get 20 people to vote on your game, you won't get a score at the end of the jam. They'll just disregard your entry. So it's nice to have all your work in and then know where you place. This next section is looking back at my previous games and seeing what I did wrong last time and whether or not I've improved from it. So the last game I deployed was The Legend of Link for the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam, where the theme was roles reversed. I created a game where you play as Zelda and rescue Link instead of playing as Link to rescue Zelda, reversing the roles. Last time, one of the key things I stated I wanted to do was include more voice actors, because it always makes the game feel so much better. And in that game, I had 3 voice actors for nearly 10 characters. Eventually, it sounded a little bit repetitive. However, this time, thankfully, I had some amazing friends who voice acted all sorts of characters for me, and I just can't thank them enough. They really have made the game, and it would not be the same without them. The next improvement was not to participate if I didn't like the theme. I stated in one of the previous ones that I joined the theme, and I did not want to do the theme. I felt almost obliged to have to do it, and that's not the way it should be. It wasn't fun. So I made the rule that if I don't like the theme, I don't participate. It's not the biggest thing in the world, so that's what I did. With this theme, I wasn't overly happy with it. It's not like I was jumping for joy, but it also I wasn't disappointed. So I gave it a shot just to see how I go. If I couldn't come up with an idea, I was just not going to do it. But I got the idea about the Gladiator arena, adding the different time zones in, and I started to really enjoy it, so I rolled with it. And in the end, I'm really happy I did. Finally, was to jump onto ideas more than avoiding them. So oftentimes or not, most people, myself included, will see a new idea and go, I don't know A to Z on how to do that. I'm going to avoid it. I'm on a deadline. However, in my experience, unless you really are out of your depth, chances are you're going to be fine. So like with all the new things I've done with state trees, crowd systems, game modes, swearing, all stuff like that, I knew enough to crack on with it, but it was enough that I did a little bit of Googling and I managed to figure it out, and I made a great game in the end. So in this part, we look at all the things that I personally have leveled up my knowledge in this jam. I've had so many new features in this jam that is just so cool, and I'm going to take on for future games. The biggest one is the state trees. Absolutely, because it's going to revolutionize how I design AI from now on. But the other upgrades that are less known about because they exist and I've just created them, but I now know how to create them, and that's going to be my wave generator. So this is something I built into the games, so you can either play in story mode or infinite mode. That's my 2 game modes. And the enemy wave generator, you can pass a number of enemies to spawn, and if you want a list of the specific enemies you want to spawn, and it'll spawn them randomly around the arena, and then only when they die, it will move to the next stage. This wave generator controls the infinite because it'll just keep ticking up the waves until you die, but it also controls the story because when the enemies die, it progresses the story. Another new aspect is the swearing mode. Such a simple concept, but it really does add to the game. I got my voice actors to all record their standard lines, but next to each line that I wanted swearing in, I put an alternative swearing line. I confirmed that all the voice actors were okay with swearing. If they weren't, that the lines were binned for them. I didn't mind, but thankfully everybody didn't mind anyway. And then in my dialogue, all I did was add a condition saying, is swearing enabled? If swearing was enabled, it played the swearing lines. If it wasn't, it didn't play it. Now you might think just adding the occasional F word or something like that into the dialogue won't make that much of a difference, but when you're talking about a gladiator arena with space pirates taking over and then putting you to battle, it actually really does fit the story. And all the voice actors agreed upon seeing it going, they definitely preferred the swearing version of the voice because it really did just match the tone of the game. The randomness by far exceeds anything else I've ever done with this level of randomness. Every single enemy has a random body mesh. So you've got your World War guys, they would randomize between 5 or 6 different meshes. They all have random hats with random materials so they could change tones of their armor. They had random weapons. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to get this into the game, but the functionality is there. They change between a couple of pistols, and then random voices. Again, if I had more voice actors, the functionality is there. All I need to do is drag in the different voice actor slots and it'd randomize each voice. A bit more time and I could have added even more randomness to it, but the fact is you can play the game and you'll end up with different scenarios is pretty cool. So this part of the video is where we look at the viewer feedback and we talk about what they complained about or if they had any issues. And thankfully, it was very, very positive this time around. Everybody loved the intro, the voices, they liked the comedy of it, the custom options, and the game itself they just really enjoyed. Most comments reference to how much content I've managed to put into the game with such a short time frame, which blows my mind because earlier in the video, as I discussed, I only had evenings and weekends. If I only had like 6 hours on an evening to do it staying up late, I would have had 8 hours throughout the day to do it, so I could have doubled the amount of stuff I put in the game. But it's still an awesome fact that people think I've done that well, which is good. The key issue people had was the shooting and the damage in the game. It wasn't a bug as such, it was just a last minute design decision, but the most common improvement was they wanted some sort of indicator to know that they've actually hit the enemies. So if you shoot the enemies, all it did was fire a line cast from your weapon to the enemy. That was it. And then if the enemy wasn't already in the middle of a sentence, they would say, ouch, you know, I'm in pain, or oh, you got me, or something. And that wasn't enough indication for when you're playing it. And after going back and playing the game after the comments, I fully agree. There needed to be more animations of them going, or the blood splatters, or a muzzle line, or something, so you could see that you have actually hit them. Because at the moment, they're just bullet sponges until they die. So the final improvement people recommended was try to reduce the size of the game. Now, I know games nowadays are coming out at 100 gig, 150 gig kind of thing. But for a game jam game, people tend to really want smaller games, which is fine. You can do big games. But my game was 2 gig and it did not need to be 2 gig at all. The reason it was too big is I imported all sorts of different Cinti packs from the World War packs, Roman packs, Space packs, and all other ones. And I was using the characters from them all, but I wasn't really using any of the other static meshes such as buildings and stuff. So all of those still were packaged in the game because they were referenced somewhere. All of those were still packaged in the game and they didn't need to be. So what I should have done is copied my entire project to a backup version, like a publishing line, and then used a tool such as Asset Cleaner to just wipe out all the meshes that I'm not using in the game. And I generally think I could have got the game to like 200 meg and removing 1.8 gig from the game, but it was a last minute thing. So this is the part of the video where it goes a little bit unscripted. So throughout the previous of this video, it was rehearsed. I have bullet points scripted and stuff like that. However, this version is where we take a look at my actual scores in the game. I've not seen these yet. A few other people have, but they've not said anything to me. So I'm going to click into my Time Gladiators game, and as soon as I click the submission to brackets, I can see what people have voted for my game. I've not seen this yet, so it's going to be quite cool to see. So we're going to go in live. So here we go. So here are my results here, and just from an overall one, I'm actually insanely happy with it. So let's go down on them. So audio is the audio in the game. This is everything from background music, SFX sound effects, bullets and damage sounds, and the voice act. So I used custom voice acting for the entire game. I don't think I actually voiced anyone in the game this time. Normally I do. But the other sounds such as sound effects and music, that was all stuff I had licenses to. However, I did state all of this. So the audio, I've been ranked 149th place out of 792. That is pretty damn awesome. I am incredibly happy with that score. I don't want to take credit for any of it because all of that audio came from the voice actors. I strongly believe that score was for the voice actors because the average score was 3.4, so they're quite happy with that, and the voice actors were the lead of the game. They're just so cool. So again, thank you to the voice actors. Hats off to you. That score is for you. So the graphics, I did mention that I purchased all the assets. I didn't use it. However, people really did like it, so I got 167th place out of 792. That blows my mind. People really, really enjoy it. I modelled the Gladiator arena by taking a couple of Roman Colosseums and then merging them together. So I'm really happy with that score. Fun drops down a little bit at 210. I do understand this one actually, because again, this game focuses on story and setting the lore. And we already know people like that because the audio drives it, and they said it was really, really good. So the fun does drop down with the shooting. It's literally just a really basic combat shooter. So I do understand that, but still 210 is a fantastic score. That's nearly top 80% or something. So I'm really, really happy with that. Innovation, 212. So this is whether my game is just a clone of something else or I've done something unique and new in it. And thankfully, a lot of people seem to agree I did something quite unique, which was really cool. I can't actually think of any games that do similar to me. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Generally have. People really think it's an innovation in a game and the content I've added works. So I'm happy with that. Overall is the score of what in the entire jam, what's my place? Is it a good game? So I have ranked officially 225th out of 792. That is a cracking score. I am totally happy with that. I will take that. Top 300, you can't say top 250. It's such a good score. I'm generally really happy with that one. Games design, that's 299. That's the second to lowest score. Okay, so people didn't like the games design, but I guess games design and fun do linger together with each other. And with the basic shooting, games design, yeah, I can understand why it's quite low. A lot of the cool features I've added are not really gameplay elements. So yeah, I understand that one. I'd expect that to be a bit lower personally, so I'm quite happy with that score. And finally, theme. This is the lowest score, which after playing other games, I totally understand why it is. 345th place out of 792, so it's more than halfway. It's less than half. But my game's what's behind the door is the gladiator doors when they walk out. But after playing the other games, people really made the doors the focus of the game. I played so many games where you were literally sat in front of a door choosing when to open it or not. So I do understand that one. And yeah, overall, I'm generally really happy with those scores. That is a cracking score. So yeah, I'm happy. That was out of 25 votes, so yes. And there's just the distribution. So overall, people were like 3 stars. It's a medium game. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So here we are. The next plans. I have lots of ideas in the bank that I'm saving that I want to work on, but at the moment to achieve these ideas, I need funding, which is, this is not a video to ask for funding. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just going to keep saving up so I can order them. Pretty much I need a mocap suit, I need an animator, I need a modeler, blah, blah, blah. So long-term plans. But I've noted all these down, so it's not like I'm going to forget them. But my actual plans are to absolutely continue with the YouTube series. My channel is gaining views and subscribers daily at this point, which is fantastic. Thank you to everybody who's subscribing and watching my video. The new packs are fun to play with. Since I restarted the YouTube series, I've got some new places to play with. I've got a whole RPG element. I can make some pretty awesome quests. I'm planning to merge in some new Cinti packs to it soon. And I'm also planning to look at a bunch of the new narrative plugins. So if you don't know, I was just a user of narrative. Then I became a moderator and now I'm a developer, which is a fantastic upgrade. I am now fixing very basic bugs on narrative. And yeah, so I'm going to look at adding more modifications for these plugins into my game so I can use like the new interactions, the navigator and stuff like that, which will be really, really cool. So that is time Gladiators. My bracket is 2024.1 Game Jam submission. Overall, I've upgraded in so many skills. I generally am really happy. I've produced a fantastic game. I got great feedback and the reviews. 225th place out of 792. That is a fantastic score and I'm really, really happy. Thank you to everybody who's played my game or to help me. I really appreciate it. So I hope you liked it. Do you have any feedback or advice? Did you make a game that I've not played? Let me know below. Please like, comment and subscribe and I will see you next time.